What would it take for the world's richest man to step away from his empire of innovation, luxury, and fame? A bold idea, a deep curiosity, and the courage to test humanity's compassion. That's exactly what Elon Musk did when he decided to step into an entirely different world, one of struggle and invisibility. But this wasn't just a simple act of charity or a publicity stunt. No one, not even the Café staff or its regular customers, could have guessed the man in tattered clothes and messy hair was the genius behind Tesla and SpaceX. Dressed in layers of old, mismatched clothing and donning a scruffy beard, Musk's transformation was so flawless that even the sharpest eye wouldn't detect the billionaire behind the facade. His goal? To see how people would treat someone who appeared to have nothing, to understand human nature in its rawest form, and perhaps to challenge some deep-seated biases. As Musk shuffled into a quaint cafe tucked away in a busy urban corner, the story took its first thrilling turn. Eyes turned toward him, some with curiosity, others with disdain. Whispers passed between tables, and the barista hesitated for a moment before greeting him with a guarded smile. Musk played his part convincingly, mumbling a soft "good morning" as he ordered the cheapest item on the menu, fumbling with coins that barely covered the cost. But the adventure didn't stop there. A group of young professionals seated near the counter began to murmur, shooting sideways glances at him. A cafe employee whispered to a colleague, her expression a mix of concern and judgment. Would they offer help, or would they dismiss him like so many others often do to the unseen faces on the streets? The air was thick with tension. Musk observed silently, every interaction adding a new layer to his daring experiment. Somewhere in the background, a customer began to record him on their phone, perhaps sensing there was more to this stranger than met the eye. Little did anyone know that they were part of a social experiment led by a man who could buy the entire cafe 100 times over. The suspense was palpable, and Musk, the disguised billionaire, was just getting started. In a city bustling with the hum of everyday life, it's easy to blend in, if you know how. For most people, blending in means maintaining an average appearance, but for Elon Musk, blending in meant disappearing entirely. Musk, known for his sleek suits and commanding presence, embarked on an adventure that would challenge his very identity. He was about to become someone unrecognizable, someone no one would ever expect to be a billionaire, a homeless man. To pull off this transformation, Musk had to do more than just wear worn-out clothes. This was no simple disguise. Every detail was crucial. It wasn't enough to just wear old clothes. He needed to look the part convincingly. For the first step in his transformation, Musk reached out to a team of experts who specialized in the art of disguise. The goal was clear: make him a complete stranger in the eyes of the public. The process began with a change in his physical appearance. His usually pristine, well-groomed hair was left uncut for days, growing wild and unruly. His face, once clean-shaven and meticulously maintained, was covered with a patchy beard that looked as though it had been neglected for weeks. With a bit of makeup and prosthetics, the transformation was complete. Musk looked like someone who had fallen through the cracks of society, a man living on the margins with no ties to wealth or fame. Next came the clothing. No designer brands or tailored suits for Musk today. Instead, he wore a mismatched combination of tattered jeans, a faded hoodie, and worn-out sneakers. His jacket, once high-end and cutting-edge, now looked like it had seen better days, patched up, torn at the seams, and weathered by time. He even had a beat-up backpack that looked like it had been through 1,000 rough journeys. The image was so convincing that anyone who glanced at him would never guess that this was the same man who built companies that changed the world. Once the transformation was complete, Musk stepped out into the world, not as Elon Musk, the innovator and visionary, but as a nameless, faceless figure. No one could tell who he was, and that was the point. To test society's reaction, he needed to experience the world without the privilege that came with his name, and that meant being truly invisible. This was the beginning of Musk's most daring experiment to date, and the world was about to see a side of him that no one had ever imagined. As he walked into the streets with his new identity fully embraced, the adventure had only just begun. Would he be ignored, treated with contempt, or would someone see through the disguise and recognize the man behind the facade? The answers lay ahead as he stepped into the unknown. With his transformation complete, Elon Musk, now unrecognizable as a homeless man, walked into the bustling cafe, a haven where locals gathered to sip their lattes and catch up on the latest gossip. The bell above the door chimed as he entered, and in that moment the atmosphere shifted. To the staff behind the counter, it was just another customer. To the regular patrons, he was nothing more than a tired, scruffy face among the crowd. But what they didn't know was that this seemingly ordinary visit was about to turn into an extraordinary social experiment. The first reactions were subtle but telling. As Musk shuffled to the counter, a few heads turned, but only briefly. He wasn't the kind of person most would remember or even acknowledge. His appearance seemed to signal that he wasn't important enough to be noticed. No sharp suit or expensive tech gadgets, no polished demeanor that screamed wealth. Instead, his ragged clothes and disheveled hair made him blend in effortlessly with the invisible masses often overlooked by society. The barista, a young woman with a quick smile, greeted him with the same professionalism she offered every customer, though her eyes lingered on him for just a second longer than necessary. She didn't ask any questions, but her hesitation was evident. Perhaps she had seen him on the street earlier, or maybe she was unsure how to interact with someone who didn't fit the usual cafe customer profile. Regardless, she took his order, just a black coffee, the cheapest item on the menu, and moved on, continuing with the task at hand. Nearby, a group of young professionals sat huddled around a table, laptops open, engaged in a lively discussion. They didn't make any direct comment about Musk, but exchanged a few glances, their whispers barely audible. It was clear that they too had noted the stranger's appearance, but felt no obligation to offer help or even engage. In fact, their attention soon shifted back to their conversation, dismissing him as just another person who didn't fit into their social circle. Musk, undeterred, took his seat at a small table near the window, observing quietly as the cafe's usual rhythm continued. He watched as some patrons avoided eye contact, subtly moving their bags away from him, as if to distance themselves from his presence. The few who did glance in his direction did so with a mixture of discomfort and apathy, as though seeing him was an inconvenience they didn't want to acknowledge. But one thing Musk couldn't help but notice was the stark contrast between the way he was treated now versus when he entered any other place as himself. The coldness was palpable, the detachment undeniable. However, the most striking reaction came from a middle-aged woman who had been sitting by herself near the back of the cafe. She had been quietly sipping her tea, but her gaze fell on Musk, lingering longer than the others. For a moment, she seemed to wrestle with something, perhaps the weight of societal expectations or a growing sense of empathy. After what felt like an eternity, she stood up, hesitated, and then walked over to Musk. Her gesture was small, a quiet offer to share a meal, a few kind words, but it was enough to break the invisible barrier between them. Musk smiled, grateful for the brief yet significant connection, but the rest of the cafe remained oblivious to the exchange that had just unfolded. The staff and customers had fallen into a predictable pattern. Those who could help chose not to, and those who would help were rare exceptions. This was the essence of the social experiment Musk was conducting. How would society react to someone who was invisible, a person with no wealth, no status, and no apparent worth? The reactions were not just about kindness or cruelty, but about something deeper. The way people's perceptions of others were shaped by their appearance and status. As the visit continued, Musk's experiment began to unfold before his eyes. The reactions were raw and revealing, giving him a glimpse into the attitudes that often go unnoticed in daily life. Would the cafe's patrons break free from their bubble and offer more than just fleeting glances? Or would they, too, dismiss him, just as society so often does to those who have nothing to offer in return? The suspense was thick, and every interaction left Musk more determined to learn the truth. As Elon Musk sat quietly in his tattered clothes, sipping his black coffee, he found himself observing the world through a lens that was both unfamiliar and eye-opening. This wasn't the world he was used to, where people recognized him for his innovations or his wealth. In this new world, he was just another face in the crowd, easily overlooked, dismissed, and at times, even avoided. But as the minutes ticked by, unexpected encounters began to unfold. Moments that Musk hadn't anticipated, moments that would challenge his assumptions and stir his curiosity in ways he hadn't imagined. The first surprise came when an older man, whose weathered face suggested a life spent navigating hardship, approached him. The man, carrying a bag of groceries, paused as he walked past Musk's table. For a split second, their eyes met, and in that fleeting moment there was a silent understanding. The older man stopped, then took a step back. Without a word, he sat across from Musk, unpacking his groceries and offering him half a sandwich he had brought from home. "Don't worry," the man said, his voice rough but kind. "You look like you could use it." The gesture wasn't grand or performative, but it was one of the most genuine acts of kindness Musk had experienced all day. The man didn't look at Musk as a rich person in disguise. He saw him as another human being in need of help, a fellow soul who might be struggling. Musk was caught off guard by the simplicity of the encounter, an unexpected act of warmth from someone he would have thought would turn away just like everyone else. Later, a young woman sitting nearby caught his attention. She had been eyeing him for some time, her expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. At first, Musk thought she might be another judgmental onlooker, someone who would quickly dismiss him as another person in need of charity. But she surprised him. She didn't just look at him from a distance. She walked over, sat beside him, and started a conversation. "I've seen people like you around the neighborhood," she said softly, her voice almost hesitant. "People who don't have a place to call home. I'm sorry if you're going through a tough time. Is there anything I can do?" Musk was momentarily taken aback. The woman didn't know who he was, nor did she have any idea that he was actually a billionaire conducting a social experiment. She just saw someone who seemed like they needed help. It was a humbling experience for Musk, one that made him reflect on how he, in his own life, often struggled to understand people who didn't share his reality. But the most surprising encounter of all came when a man in a sharp suit approached him. Musk initially thought the man might be another wealthy individual, perhaps someone who would look down on him, dismissing him as a nuisance. But instead, the man extended his hand and introduced himself. "You know," the man said with a warm smile, "I've been through tough times before. I've been down on my luck, and I know what it's like to feel invisible. I don't know your story, but if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask." The gesture was unexpected, not just because of the man's apparent wealth, but because it came with no judgment. Musk could see the sincerity in his eyes, a reminder that even those who appeared to have everything sometimes understood the struggles of others in a way that transcended social class. For Musk, these encounters were deeply moving and eye-opening. He had expected indifference, or perhaps even hostility, but what he found instead were moments of connection that defied stereotypes. It wasn't just the acts of kindness that surprised him, it was the humanity behind them. The encounters reminded him that people, regardless of their backgrounds or appearances, could still find common ground when they looked beyond the surface. The encounter with the older man, the young woman, and even the wealthy individual showed Musk a side of society he hadn't fully appreciated before. It was a reminder that at our core, most people still have a desire to help, to connect, and to share their humanity with others, regardless of their circumstances. These unexpected moments left Musk with much to think about. His social experiment was far from over, but already it had revealed more than he had anticipated, challenging his perceptions of the world, and perhaps changing the way he would approach the people around him from now on. Elon Musk, the tech mogul known for his ventures with Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink, is often seen as larger than life. But for this undercover experiment, Musk took a completely different approach to see how the world would treat him without the fame and fortune. The decision to disguise himself as a homeless man was not only a personal challenge, but also an attempt to understand human behavior from a unique perspective. His goal was simple: to test the empathy, biases, and reactions of those around him in a setting where his usual persona wouldn't influence interactions. This social experiment had a deeper purpose. Musk wanted to explore how people react to vulnerability and need, especially in a world where social hierarchies are often dictated by wealth, appearance, and status. The art of the disguise: how Elon Musk transformed himself into a homeless man. For a transformation of this magnitude, careful planning was essential. Musk worked with a team of professionals who helped him craft the perfect homeless persona. They used makeup and clothing that would make him blend in seamlessly with the people he intended to observe. His clothes were ragged, his hair and beard unkempt, and his demeanor was altered to match that of someone living on the streets. The disguise was so effective that even Musk's closest associates failed to recognize him when he entered the cafe. This made the experiment even more fascinating, as it allowed him to experience an environment where people would not view him through the lens of wealth or fame. Beneath the surface, what Elon Musk learned about human nature. As Musk spent time in the cafe, he witnessed firsthand the range of responses from staff and customers. Some people ignored him entirely, while others offered sympathy or even help. What Musk found most revealing, however, was not just the outward reactions but the deeper motivations behind them. He observed how people often make snap judgments based on appearances and how those judgments shape their treatment of others. He also saw moments of kindness where individuals, unprompted, shared food or a seat with him. It made him question the social structures that determine who gets attention and who gets ignored. A day in the life, living as a homeless person in a busy cafe. What followed was a full day of being immersed in the life of someone without a permanent address or financial means. Musk experienced the hardships and obstacles that come with homelessness, including being overlooked, underestimated, or even judged. In one particularly striking moment, a group of customers ignored his presence entirely, while a staff member subtly offered him a warm drink. This moment captured the essence of the experiment, how a small act of kindness could change the course of a person's day, even if they appeared to have nothing to offer in return. The emotional roller coaster, Elon Musk's personal journey during the experiment. While the social experiment was meant to provide insights into human behavior, it also had a profound emotional effect on Musk. He found himself feeling both humbled and disheartened by the way society treated people on the fringes. Although his disguise allowed him to gain an anonymous understanding of the world, it also forced him to reflect on his own role in that world. Musk admitted that it was difficult to separate himself from his fame and wealth, and the experience helped him empathize more deeply with those who have been marginalized. The emotional toll of this experiment would stay with him long after the big reveal. The big reveal. Elon Musk's true identity shocks everyone. The climax of the experiment came when Musk finally revealed his true identity to the cafe staff and the customers. As the layers of his disguise were peeled away, the reactions were nothing short of astonishment. People couldn't believe their eyes when they recognized the man who had been sitting amongst them all day as the billionaire tech giant. Musk's quiet observation of the reactions highlighted the powerful impact of appearance and status. It was a moment that stunned everyone, as they realized they had been interacting with one of the world's most influential figures without even knowing it. What followed was a mixture of disbelief, admiration, and curiosity as people began to process the significance of what had just happened. Musk's experiment had not only surprised the cafe patrons, but also created a ripple effect that sparked a wider conversation about empathy, judgment, and social perceptions. Aftermath. The impact of Elon Musk's homeless experiment on society. Following the big reveal, the cafe experience went viral, drawing attention from social media users, commentators, and news outlets alike. Many were fascinated by Musk's decision to walk in someone else's shoes, while others were critical of the idea. Was it truly an authentic representation of the challenges homeless people face, or did Musk's privilege overshadow the reality of homelessness? Regardless of the debate, one thing was clear. Musk had succeeded in starting a much-needed conversation about how society views and treats individuals who are struggling. As a result, the experiment sparked an ongoing dialogue about how small actions, whether it's a moment of kindness or a shift in perspective, can make a big difference. Elon Musk's decision to go undercover as a homeless person was more than just a social experiment. It became a profound journey that reshaped his understanding of human behavior, kindness, and the complexities of societal interactions. The experience allowed Musk to step outside the bubble of his celebrity status and witness firsthand the raw nature of human empathy, or the lack thereof. As he sat in the cafe, often ignored or treated with pity, he learned valuable lessons that not only changed his perspective, but also challenged broader societal norms. One of the most striking lessons Musk learned was the power of small, unspoken acts of kindness. Throughout the day, some individuals in the cafe offered him a moment of warmth, a smile, a kind word, or a cup of coffee. These gestures were subtle, yet impactful. Musk quickly realized that a small action, such as acknowledging someone's presence or offering them a drink, could make a significant difference in that person's day. He noted that kindness doesn't always have to be grand or expensive. In fact, it is often the simplest gestures that hold the most meaning. Through his disguise, he saw how overlooked people like the homeless could be completely invisible to society unless someone decided to see them as more than just their circumstances. Another profound realization for Musk was the complexity of human judgment. As he observed how customers and staff reacted to him, he saw how quickly people could form opinions based on appearance alone. Some ignored him, assuming he was unworthy of attention, while others engaged with him from a place of sympathy or charity. However, Musk noticed that not all acts of kindness were driven by genuine care. Sometimes, they were motivated by a desire to feel good about helping someone who was less fortunate. This realization prompted Musk to reflect on how superficial judgments often shape the way we interact with others, without considering the full story behind someone's appearance or situation. It reinforced the notion that, more often than not, people are quick to label others based on assumptions rather than offering empathy or understanding. Living a day as someone with no visible means of support gave Musk insight into the deep disconnect between society's privileged and marginalized communities. He felt the stark contrast between his everyday life and the life of someone who is homeless, someone whose existence might go unnoticed, even in a bustling cafe. Musk observed that people often treat the homeless as invisible, ignoring their humanity in favor of convenience or discomfort. While the cafe patrons may have been kind to him in brief encounters, their discomfort with his presence or their tendency to ignore him completely underscored a larger societal issue. The marginalized are often seen as other, creating a division that is hard to bridge. For Musk, this revelation deepened his understanding of how privilege works and how society fails to make meaningful connections with those who struggle to survive. Throughout the experiment, Musk found himself feeling emotions he rarely encountered. As a wealthy entrepreneur, he had been accustomed to receiving admiration and respect from people, but in his new persona, he was treated with disdain, fear, or indifference. This shift in treatment was disorienting and humbling. In one instance, Musk was struck by the vulnerability of a woman who, despite being homeless herself, offered him her last bit of food. This moment of pure empathy showed Musk the power of human connection that transcends wealth and status. It reminded him that empathy is not bound by social hierarchy or material possession. Empathy, he discovered, is an intrinsic part of human nature that can break down barriers between people and unite them on a deeper level. By the end of the experiment, Musk emerged with a changed perspective on kindness, humanity, and the way we treat others. His experience had given him a rare glimpse into the struggles of marginalized individuals and the emotional complexity that accompanies their lives. He walked away with a deep desire to inspire others to act with more empathy, kindness, and understanding toward those who may not have the privileges he enjoys. Through his newfound insights, Musk hopes to encourage a society that sees beyond appearances and strives to treat everyone, regardless of their social status or circumstances, with dignity and respect. Ultimately, Musk's undercover experiment proved that kindness is not always about charity. It's about acknowledging someone's humanity and making a concerted effort to see them as equal, regardless of their situation. These lessons about kindness, empathy, and human connection are valuable not just for the wealthy or famous, but for anyone striving to make the world a better, more compassionate place. Elon Musk's undercover experiment, where he disguised himself as a homeless man to test human reactions in a cafe, has the potential to reshape how society perceives and interacts with others. This experiment sheds light on the biases, judgments, and assumptions that often govern our daily interactions. At its core, Musk's journey was an exploration of human nature, designed to expose the subtle, often unconscious ways in which we categorize people based on their appearance, wealth, or social status. What makes this social experiment so significant is its ability to challenge the ingrained social hierarchies that influence our behavior. The reactions Musk received, from indifference and discomfort to genuine kindness, illustrated the stark difference in how people treat those who are perceived as privileged versus those who are marginalized. By experiencing life from a perspective far removed from his own fame and fortune, Musk gained a first-hand understanding of the emotional toll that societal labels and biases can have on individuals, particularly those who struggle to make ends meet. The lessons Musk learned can have a far-reaching impact, encouraging us all to reassess how we treat others. As a society, we tend to overlook the homeless, the disenfranchised, and those who don't fit conventional definitions of success. However, this experiment forces us to confront our biases and consider what lies beneath the surface. It reminds us that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, deserves to be treated with dignity and compassion. Ultimately, this experiment could catalyze a shift in how we view one another. If people can begin to recognize and address the ways they judge others based on appearances, we might start seeing more empathy, less division, and a society that values kindness above status. Musk's experiment has the potential to change not only individual perspectives, but also to spark a wider cultural transformation, one that encourages human connection over superficial judgment. It's a call to break down the barriers that separate us and to look at each person through a lens of humanity, not just social standing. As Elon Musk's undercover experiment concluded with the big reveal of his true identity, the emotional impact was undeniable, not only for Musk himself but for everyone involved in the experience. After spending an entire day as a homeless man, observing the behavior and reactions of those around him, Musk had gained profound insights into human nature, kindness, and the importance of empathy. In the final moments of the experiment, as the cafe patrons and staff learned who the mysterious man really was, Musk took the opportunity to share a powerful message that would resonate with them and with the world. Musk's message was simple yet transformative. We need to treat each other with kindness, respect, and empathy, regardless of our social status or circumstances. His words echoed the lessons he had learned throughout the day, as he reflected on the way society tends to categorize people based on appearances, wealth, and perceived success. His hope was to inspire a shift in mindset, one that prioritizes human connection over social hierarchy. Musk emphasized that at our core, we are all human beings with the same capacity for kindness, vulnerability, and empathy, regardless of how we are seen by the outside world. The heartwarming end of this social experiment was not just the revelation of Musk's identity. It was a call to action for everyone to be more mindful of how we treat those around us. Musk urged individuals to go beyond surface-level judgments and to look deeper, recognizing the shared humanity in everyone. He encouraged the cafe's patrons and the public to adopt a mindset of compassion, where simple gestures like a smile, a kind word, or a helping hand could change someone's life. Through this experiment, Musk's message became clear. Kindness should not be reserved for those we deem worthy or privileged. It should be extended to everyone, especially those who may often be overlooked. In a world where division and judgment can often separate us, Musk's message reminded everyone that empathy and compassion are the true keys to building a more unified, humane society. His heartfelt call to treat each other with dignity, regardless of appearance or circumstances, left an indelible mark on all who witnessed the experiment, and it has the power to influence how we see and interact with each other moving forward.